All right, cool. So now that we got a pretty decent audience, let's go ahead and get started. So I'll just switch over to Mr. Camera here. All right, cool. Let me see if I can. That might be the best I can do on focus. Might be a little better. All right, cool. All right, so like the title suggests, the campaign, I'm not even going to call it an assault on Lead Mountain anymore. I'm just going to call it a campaign on Lead Mountain. It does continue, and we have made progress. Last week, I showed you the 3 towed artillery pieces. There was a German, actually 2, I think, 75s. 1 infantry gun, 1 old school field gun, and there was one other, which I cannot remember what it was now for the life of me. But 3 field guns have been 100% completed. They're now in the case. And so now we're going to move on to our next pieces of progress. We have our Merkava air quotes, our air quote Merkava tank. So I've been struggling to identify exactly which version of the Merkava this is. It's definitely not the 3 or the 4. There are 4 general versions and then variants within those models, I should say, Merkava 1 through 4. So this is almost certainly the old 105 millimeter, either the 1 or the 2. It doesn't look exactly like either. So, at least according to the photos I can find. So I'm just making it, it's just an early Merkava is how I'm doing it. I have replaced some of the over the top or on top of the turret systems. I'm not sure what they were. They almost looked like miniature Gatling guns. I clipped those off. I replaced them with the required 30 caliber, usually an FN mag, what the Americans would call an M240, for the commander's hatch, and a 50 cal for the loader's hatch. Like I was talking about last stream, and I think I got it backwards. In fact, I did get it backwards. It's supposed to be not supposed to be. Most American tanks that you'll see, they'll reverse this machine gun layout. They'll have a 50 for the commander and a 30 of some type, usually an M240 for the loader. In most photos I can find, the Israelis reverse that. They give the 50 to the loader. And then they have this 50 that's mounted, I don't want to say coaxially, but almost coaxially on top of the main gun on this very strange kind of over the barrel mount. You also see that on a lot of the later Magaks, like Magaks 4s and 5s and 6s. We did put in some Israeli battalion markings, some Israeli company markings. That's a little chevron, and then the I don't speak Hebrew, so I don't know which the character is, but there's 4 different characters that you see on Israeli tanks. That's the platoon, and then of course a number. So tank, platoon, or I should say platoon, tank, company, number of barrel rings. They are not; those do not designate kills. These aren't Germans. Designates the battalion. That's I think how that works. She is done in Golan Green because again, Merkavas have not fought along any of the Sinai fronts yet. Knock on wood that continues. Even after the Arab Spring, the United States and her allies remain pretty friendly with Egypt. The new government in Egypt, in fact, the Bright Star exercises are back on, I think, as of 20... You know, I don't know when they restarted, but I do know that we had Bright Star exercises, joint U.S.-Egyptian exercises, starting in at least 2018, probably before that. So we're not likely to see Merkavas in Sinai sand. People often ask, you know, which color do you paint Israeli tanks? They're often in 2 different colors. I'm going to overgeneralize here. Sand for the Sinai front. This here, kind of a very, very dull olive green, almost like a pea green, is a very desaturated kind of a green, is where you get what I call Golan Green. This is up in Galilee, up towards the Golan Heights, near the Jordan River, heading into those battlefields. So this is what you would have seen in, say, Peace for Galilee, 1982. So this thing is now complete. I got a little bit of, I didn't overdo it this time, a little bit of my interferon blue. Do I have that handy so I can show you guys? This is my secret sauce for onboard weapons. Of course, now I'm not going to, okay, here it is. Because I know I usually use really cheapo paint, but every once in a while, I have some, okay, there's some of this. And do I have the other one handy? Oh, sorry, I had the wrong one. Okay, interference blue. So I use this interference blue. I sort of dry brush over the weapon. I put the weapon in the dark gray, dark medium gray. Give it a good wash, so I can get the like the recesses inside the air jacket on the 50s, and so on. Little details in the 30 cals, and then go over it with oops, the right one, with interference blue as a dry brush. A little bit of a heavy dry brush, and that gives it that kind of gunmetal blue kind of a look. Gives it that little bit, not iridescent, but makes it look a little bit more like metal, is the short version. Okay, so this baby, and then I dry brush some, some Golan mud, some, Bekaa Valley, Southern Lebanon mud there on the bottom. Reversing tail lights. I did have to put 2 little pieces on there for the headlights because this model did not have pieces for the headlights. So I put on 2 little pieces of tiny plastic on there where the headlights were supposed to be, put the headlights on there, and of course added the radio antenna where hopefully that comes out. Let me zoom in here. It's still black on black. You guys probably can't see it. I will try to. So there, hopefully you're able to see a little bit of the radio antenna. And again, the radio antenna, I'm pretty sure that's where they go according to most blueprints and photographs I can find, which means I did have to add a little piece stolen out of my girlfriend's jewelry box. Sorry, Jen. I stole it when she wasn't looking. And that is the sort of the jack anchor for this, looks like your commander's radio, given its proximity to the commander's hatch. And that is our Merkava. So this was purchased along with a whole bunch of other stuff from Mark, who was in the chat. Mark, here is your Merkava. She is happy and in a loving home kind of a thing. And she is done. She's ready for the shelf. Okay, so that's one piece of progress done. Looks great and huge. Yeah, welcome to Modern Armor. We had a great game last week. Or I should say earlier this week. Yeah, it was last week. It was Saturday. We had a great game on Saturday of 7 Days to the River Rhine. Some pictures are up in our Discord, also the South Florida Miniatures Gaming Club Discord, that show some of the stills from that game. And there you've got a lot of T-80Us, and you've got especially M1A1s. We had a full platoon of M1A1s, 4 tanks, and then we had a platoon of Bradleys, which are also quite large, even though they're just APCs. Alrighty, here's some other progress that's been made lately. The A-10 Warthog has it came in my little treasure box, again, purchased from Mark. This thing was basically in pieces. Put it all together, glued it all together, and then gave it the standard, NATO CENTCOM kind of a gray on the top and a off-white / light gray along the bottom. I've now painted the ordnance, and she's pretty much ready to go for the next couple steps. We're definitely going to work at least a little bit on this A-10 today. This A-10, I measured it with a tape measure and then, looked up its stats. It is damn near perfectly 15 millimeter. So it took about a huge miniature. My King Tiger is, well, let me go ahead and, sorry if the table shakes for just a second. Come on, you. All right. For a quick size comparison, this is a King Tiger in 15 mil. That's the A-10 Warthog in the exact same scale. These vehicles are to scale. Again, aircraft, a lot bigger than most people tend to think, which is why a lot of times what the game will do, especially 15 millimeter games, is they'll give you a 1:144 aircraft. One thing that I like to do, and I've noticed Mark likes to do on his tables, is use full-sized, correctly scaled 100 millimeter a 1:100 / 15 millimeter fixed-wing aircraft. A policy with which I wholeheartedly agree. They can be a pain in the ass to get a hold of and paint because they're very large, and they do take up a lot of space. but they are impressive. I've also been working on my poor little Kugelblitz. So, like I said earlier, I did the basing and I should say the priming and then the basing. I did the basing with an airbrush. Yes, I did do that off camera. I tried airbrushing live on stream exactly once. It worked out okay on the stream, but that's some stressful shit, man. So I usually do my airbrushing off camera. And then for this Kugelblitz, when I went back and I did was completed the pin wash. Given the hue of my 3-color sort of, mid to late war German camouflage here, I did want to pin wash it as opposed to just, generally give it a good wash, or even worse, give it a dip. That's always the fast way to do things, but with this kind of camouflage scheme, which is already a little too dark, I would much rather give it a good pin wash. I have an entire company of mid-war Mark IIIs in 2 versions, the Gs and the Js, and Mark IV F2s. Basically Stalingrad case blue 1942 armor. And they still look okay, but I basically just gave them a regular wash on top of this exact paint scheme, delivered via airbrush, and it almost ruined the miniatures. I mean, I still use them, they still look good, but they're just way too dark for my taste. So I was very, very careful with the pin wash on this thing. The pin wash, I always use Vallejo for my wash, and this was a mix of 2 different shades. Go ahead and find them in case anyone's interested. So Umber was definitely one of them, and the other one was a green. A basic green Vallejo wash. Yeah, it's literally just green wash. So green, and it wasn't Umber, it was sepia. If I can even find it. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, these are the 2 shades that I washed together. Or sorry, the 2 washes I kind of mixed together. And then a drop of black, just to make it, actually black. Thinned it out. You do have to thin out your Vallejo wash, I find, otherwise you get way too much wash. Not a bad thing, just, be aware of it. In fact, it's a good thing, because it means that when you have to throw up a little bit of water into your wash, it makes your wash last longer. So, that is Mr. Kugelblitz. He is not done, although he's close. But the dry washing is done. All you need, the wash is done. He needs a little bit of a dry brush, some detail paint. We might work on tonight. So you see all the engineering tools on there are not yet painted. I might mess around with the barrels a little bit. And of course we have some German markings that we're going to go ahead and put on there. But we may go ahead and start with that. Such a cute name for artillery beast. Okay, so it's kind of tough to tell, but if you imagine like a cross section of this tank, if you could I call it a tank, it's an anti-aircraft vehicle. If you could sort of imagine like a cross section, this, where these 2 guns are, coming out at an angle, it's an anti-aircraft vehicle. Right in here sits almost a ball turret. It sits inside the turret ring, almost like the ball turret on like a B-17. And the gunner sits inside that little ball turret. And that allows for fast tracking on these twin 2-centimeter anti-aircraft guns, L-55 anti-aircraft guns. And what that does, and hence the name, Kugelblitz in German literally means ball lightning. So like a German ballpoint pen is called a Kugelschreiber. It's literally a ball writer. Apologies for people in the chat who speak German. I haven't taken German since I think 9th grade in high school. So my German is not what it used to be. But Kugelblitz literally means ball lightning, and that's why. Got a little ball inside the turret you can't really see, because it's inside the turret, and it's meant to shoot down aircraft. Alright, so clean up my area here a little bit. Hey, Rasmus has joined us. And John says he's putting some spackle on some bases tonight. Is that for O Group, or are you back to your War of the Roses, John? And meanwhile, Rasmus, I hope things are going well at your house. I haven't heard anything from you lately, so I hope things are starting to turn around a little bit. It was a little bit of a, for people in the chat, I don't want to give away anything from, but it's, everybody's okay. It was just a little bit of domicile disaster of the house, and which is why Rasmus has been a little. He hasn't had much time for hobby lately. He's been doing some one-to-one repairs. Let's just say that. All right, so let's see here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna start. Oops, I hit the camera with my forehead there. I'm gonna go ahead and get started with some of this engineering tools, headlights, maybe a little bit of engine stuff, maybe some stowage. I'm gonna basically put a little bit of work into this Kugelblitz. After that, some dry brushing. After that, some decals. Basically, put this little guy on the shelf tonight. And then we won't finish the A-10 tonight. I still have to make a flight stand for it. But maybe we can also put some. I have ordered some transfers. They have arrived. They cost me more than some miniatures, but I have got some good Desert Storm era decals that I can use on this bad boy here. Well, it's a little disaster, Jen. It's not like, and again, I don't want to like give away too much of Rasmus's information here, but it's not like his house collapsed or anything like that. But let's face it, man. A lot of us are getting up there in years, and I know it has already happened to me, sadly. It's happened to some people, in my club or in the club and in some other circles where somebody just stops showing up to streams, or stops coming around, or stops showing up at the club, and you're like, oh, I don't know, I guess he's busy. Come to find out, there's been like, an actual emergency of some kind. I can't find a damn empty paint tray. Damn it. It's so annoying. You guys probably hear me opening and closing all these drawers in the background. Okay, this is getting annoying. Because my other two are already full of paint, and that's, damn it. That's annoying. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me try to find, still on the O group stuff. Okay, cool. So I think those miniatures you said were in 20 mil. Oh, now my cord's getting in my shot. All right, cool. I'll use that. Thanks, Jen. Jen's hooked me up with a quick paper plate. That's going to have to do for now. Because I don't want to waste any more time. All right, keep this off camera so it doesn't blow up my white balance. And we're going to use some medium gray for those engineering tools, for the steel, basically. There we go. So I basically use 3 grays. Oof, that's not coming up very well on camera. 3 grays, light, medium, and dark. Light gray, this light of a gray, winds up going on the miniature almost like white. So whenever the model requires white, like the kill rings on that Merkava, I just use this gray. I never put direct white straight on the model. It always looks weird. And then I use, this is what I usually use for what's supposed to be AKA black, or what's supposed to be, black. I use this very dark, or not very dark, this medium dark gray. Then I give it a wash, that way I get my details and maintain my tone. So again, for today, we're doing the simple engineering tools. I'm just going to use some medium gray. Don't worry about it, Jen. I probably have them in a drawer somewhere. I've got 2 of them, it's just they already got color in them. And they're all full, pretty much. Okay, we're going to do some small detail painting on stream. So let me change my focus here. I had to do this without hitting the camera, which is like right in front of my face. So clearly there's a clamp on the axe. Get rid of that thing. There's a clamp on the axe. I'm trying to avoid that. That was medium gray? Wow, even that's looking like white. Jen, I said don't worry about it. Thank you. Then on a lot of German vehicles, you see this little apparatus. It looks exactly the same on just about every German tank that you get in 15 mil. I'm gonna go ahead and guess and say it's some kind of a jack. This thing right there. So this gray is going on there a little too bright. I'm gonna go ahead and tamp this down a little bit. So in other words, before I go to the jack, I'm going to mix it up with a little bit of dark gray. So these are the two shades of gray I'm talking about. Of course, if I were a real grown-up painter, I would have 50 bottles of Citadel this and Army Painter that. Hell no. I am a ghetto painter. Get that in focus. Damn it. A little bit of overstep there. Nice thing about acrylics, you can clean it up if you're fast enough. That's still going on there super dark. Or I'm sorry, super light. Right there in the camera, I know that looks almost white, but it's cooling down a little bit as it dries. Acrylic always does get darker as it dries. Get some very dark gray, i.e. dark gray with a little bit of black in it. For this bow machine gun. Usually, I think what they would call an MG15, which was basically, I stress basically, the vehicle mount version of the, get that in the middle of the frame there, the vehicle mount version of the MG34. Man, this camera is merciless close up. Alright, let me fix this focus while I figure out what I'm going to paint next. Alright, so the machine gun's painted, the jack is painted. Not quite. There's a little bit of a mess on the jack. Damn it, my forehead keeps hitting the camera. I might go back to my earlier setup where the camera was kind of more from the side. Because this looks better, like, you know, but it's damn hard to paint this way. I'm not gonna lie. The camera is like right where my forehead's supposed to be. Alright, we got two spare road wheels. Find the right range, the right distance so that that works in focus. 2 spare road wheels. We're going to go ahead and try and paint those. Yeah, this is really hard to paint this way. A little bit of this stowage on the back. I'm going to find a medium gray for that. Rasmus says, oh, just to try a lighter or darker. Okay, 1-to-1 ain't as much fun and harder on your back. Yeah, right? I would love to not do some 1-to-1 scale. Oh, okay, cool. I got a little bit of mist in the chat here. Let me get caught up. All right, so Mark says, okay, so John says, yep, 20mm miniatures. Awesome. Mark says, okay, so I brought 32 new vehicles this week in 15mm. Looking forward to painting this week myself. Mark, didn't you just get rid of a bunch of 15mm stuff? I know, because I'm looking at some of it right here. See, that's too dark and that's too light. I'd like something right in the middle, please. Another thing that's going on here is, again, because we're streaming, the light isn't the best. White balance, gamma, basically putting on a good video show is or the best video show. Yeah, get in the center of the frame, dude. Is the priority here, not necessarily, having a nice hobby lamp blasting straight down on. A nice hobby lamp blasting straight down on your model like you're supposed to have. So I tell you what, Mark, if you're looking forward to painting some minis, paint some minis now. That's kind of the idea. I mean, everyone kind of logs onto the stream and paints together a little bit. I don't really have any orange, do I? Any like rusty orange? Actually, yes I do. It's just some really old paint. Cool, that's all I need. I'm going to go over some of the exposed, semi-exposed engine components at the back of the tank's hull. Again, this is going to be more of a dry brush than anything else. Just enough to give it a little bit of a rusty mechanical look on some of these. I don't know, like external engine parts. I don't know if this is like the water radiator or if not the radiator. No, it's clearly not the radiator, but like the water tank for the radiator. I don't know how that works. Take some orange, mix it with my medium gray. Again, just to give basically I'm just trying to come up with something that breaks the general color. So it doesn't look like one big mass of camouflage. So, oh, I'm at the wrong. So like that little orange on the side there, and then a little bit of like, it's almost like an orange dry brush there on the back on this little, it looks like a water tank. I don't know what the hell that is, to be honest. You have our spare road wheels, they're in the trunk, or they're in this little case on the side. And just a little bit of faint detail and this little bit of stowage here on the side. And I will catch up with the chat as soon as I move some things out of my way. My little painting area here is chaos because I was trying to find an angle where the no, that's not it either. I've got a bag of bits box here. I was trying to find an angle where there wouldn't be. There are the friggin' paint trays. Knew I'd find them eventually. I was trying to find an angle so that the glare on the map on the hobby board wouldn't be so bad. Even now, it's pretty bad. Like, look at that. So, okay, this is what I was looking for before, these little painting trays. Here are some of the decals we're going to use on the A-10 a little bit later tonight. And I'm going to look for 10 more seconds for this little bag that I know I have of extra pieces and components. And if I can't find it, the hell with it. I'll look for it later. So here's one of them. You guys know what I'm talking about. Whenever you have spare pieces from old kits, you save everything. Repeat, save everything. Because you know, a year from now, you're going to find something that you can use that for. And this, oh, found it. That's the bag I'm looking for. Cool. Alright, I believe I have some jerry cans in here. I do. They're just not loose. Alright, that's okay. They don't have to be loose. I always like to add at least a little bit of stowage to my vehicles. When appropriate. So I've got one basic German box. Oh wow, that cam is way too high on that. Sorry guys, you're probably having a hell of a time seeing this stuff. So I'll have to clean this up. It's got a little bit of flash there on the side. But it's basically a little stowage box. And I thought I pulled out some. This is what happens when you're trying to do literally 5 things at once. Alright. This is what I'm talking about. A little rack of jerry cans. Alright, so first thing I gotta do clearly is clean this up a little bit. Which means I have to find a knife. Okay, so we're asking Rasmus if he's going to any game cons in Ohio coming up. Not sure, as the year started with a pain in the ass, water leak. I'm only getting top up now. Okay, that's good to hear, Rasmus. Not really looked at any. Adepticon is something I would love to go to again. Yeah, there are some. I'm already getting emails and Facebook DMs about whether or not I'm going to Historicon. And that's like in July. To be honest, I don't know. I might just go to Historicon. Because I would not. Oh, I'm off the camera. I would not be going as like part of a media team or anything like that, like I was last time. Last time I was at Historicon, I was part of an actual like. Well, it was like kind of a co-venture between myself, clearly Sitrep podcast, and or representing Sitrep podcast, and on Tabletop. So 2 guys from On Tabletop flew over, Jerry and Justin, and we met up in Philadelphia. And the convention organizer's wife, of all people, drove us like 2 hours from Philadelphia International all the way into Lancaster. 2 rooms, fully paid for. I mean, they really hooked us up. But I don't know. I mean, that clearly wouldn't be the case this time. I'd actually have to pay. But the flip side is, the whole time I was there at Historicon, I was working. I got to meet some interesting people. Probably my favorite part of Historicon were the 2 U.S. Army colonels who were there and gave us a look at, actual warfare. They commanded 2 of the brigades involved in the 2008 Battle of Sadr in the Iraq War. And I almost had to apologize for the hobby. That box doesn't really fit on there that well, does it? Oh well, they're gonna have to drive carefully. Oh, you know what I'll do? I'll put it on there kind of sideways. Because some of the so-called experts, they think they're experts. Experts in like hobby sense or whatever, started asking these 2, again, full bird colonels, brigade commanders in an actual shooting war. We're at a convention where people play with little plastic tanks. There's a little bit of a disconnect there. And then some of the people, including people who are like, I don't know their names, so I don't want to embarrass them, but asking some really stupid questions. Dear God, did you really just embarrass yourself like that? Then postulating to the colonels, there were 2 of them. Their names escape me at the moment. About what historical battle the Battle of Sadr was most like. He asked the colonel, okay, so the battle that you fought in, the Battle of Sadr, what do you think that was most like in history? And the guy was like, well, there's not really you can't really compare in that kind of a way. And then he kind of blurted out with, I can't remember what it was. I think it was Stalingrad. And I was like, oh, for the love of God. So I'm rolling my eyes, like plainly. I'm behind the guy asking the question. I swear to God the colonel saw me. Because all of a sudden he had this big smile on his face. He was like trying not to laugh. So I went up to the colonel after the presentation. I was like, introduced myself. Asked, hopefully some more, I don't want to say insightful questions, but less dumb questions. But I promise not to rant today. And to get back to my earlier point, yeah, Historicon would be great to get to. This time, just kind of hanging out. Because I had a blast. at Historicon. I mean, again, they paid full way, the whole 9 yards for our room. We didn't, again, it was the guy's wife giving us a ride. So we didn't even have to like pay for a taxi or an Uber or anything like that. All we had to pay for was food and drink, really. They gave us the media room until they kicked us out. Because they had to have like this big HGMS meeting or something in there. But for a while there, we had like this big media room. Got to meet Lily Fane. Am I saying his name right? He's a famous guy on YouTube. Got to meet the guys. Well, I already knew the guys from Blood and Plunder. Mike and Rufus Rufus' son. Got to on camera demo / playtest. Not really playtest, but demo Blood and Valor. They're, I would say new, but again, this is like 3 years ago. So they're a recent World War I skirmish game. Again, the 2 colonels from the Battle of Satur. Who else was there? All the guys from Little Wars. Those I met the most because we were sharing that media room, so we were shoulder to shoulder with those guys. That was a lot of fun. Okay, I'm gonna go back to this medium gray here. And again, it's fun to be like in the in crowd, like be one of the popular kids. At the same time, dude, I'm not even playing. Like the floors would open at like 9 a.m. So we were set up at like 7, which means you had to kind of get up and get dressed and take a shower and all that stuff by 6. Maybe grab some breakfast, and then you're just working flat out until they close down at like 9 o'clock. It was like 15-hour days, like 4 of them back to back. And you see all these amazing tables, and you're interviewing the people that are putting on these tables, and you can't play because you're busy recording and interviewing stuff. So me and Jerry would go out. You guys probably know Jerry from On Tabletop. Great guy, obviously. So we would go out, look at all the tables, and sort of pick them out. Like, oh, let's see if we can interview this guy. Let's see if we can interview that guy. And we're kind of taking turns because, Jerry knows a lot about military history. I know I know enough about military history. And we would go up to these tables, and it would be like, all right, you want to do this one? And I'm looking at the table going, Jacobite Rebellion, you probably want to do this one. So I would work the camera, and he would interview the guy. And then we go to Saipan, 1944. And he looks at me, he's like, you should probably do this one. I'm like, yeah, I think I'll do this one. So then he runs the camera while I interview the guy. And we're pretty much just picking out tables based on like what we know. Whoever is the more knowledgeable or closer to knowledgeable, let's face it, we're both wargamers. We're not exactly capital H historians. Modesty is an important thing in this hobby. And as we're going through, we're just, interviewing these people. And again, a lot of fun. We haul ass back with the camera, pop out the card, give it to Justin. So at least we got to see the stuff and talk to the people. Justin was just stuck in the editing bay for damn near the whole convention. He would cut it, upload it, because we were doing like a live blog for On Tabletop. And it was a lot of work. Covering a convention is a lot of fun. It's a shit ton of work. It's fun being quasi-famous, or at least like, oh, look, like walking around with press badges. You're allowed in different areas of the convention, off hours and all this stuff. But, I didn't get to walk around the convention floor and actually start playing games until like 9 p.m. at night. And again, by then I've been up going flat out, full speed, 5th gear, open choke since 6 a.m. And then you get home and I start I get back to my hotel room, I'm replying to comments. I usually don't go to bed till 3 or 4. Wake up at 6 after literally 2 or 3, maybe 3.5, 4 hours of sleep. Rinse, repeat 4 times. Dear Lord in heaven, was I tired. So it would be fun to go to, it would be honestly fun to go to Historicon, or really any. I like Historicon. I'm not really a con guy, but I do like Historicon. Because it's different than other cons. If you guys have been to Historicon, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's very different than other conventions. I don't like salute. I don't, it's not really my jam. Nothing against people who go to it, nothing against the people who participate in it. It's just not really my thing. All right, so I've got some sepia wash now that I'm going to slightly thin out with some water, a little bit more. That might have been too much, but that's fine. Better too little than too much. Or sorry, better to thin it out than hit the model with too much wash. And I'm just going to sepia wash this new box. I tell you what's weird, man. I realize you guys probably can't see a lot of this. Because I got two focus settings. I can focus setting it to where you can see the hobby board, or I can focus set it to where you can see the actual model when I'm trying to paint on it. So what I'm trying to do now is put a little bit of sepia wash on top of this stowage crate so that a little bit of the darker color gets into the panes of the wood there. And then get a little bit underneath the lip, or the lid I should say, the edge of the lid, just to give it a little bit of definition. Okay, now it's time for some very, very small amount of dark gray wash. So I just get regular gray, and I'm going to drop a little bit of black in it. Ooh. Or not, it may be, oh, there we go. May already be dark enough. No, it's not. Okay, cool. A little bit more. All right, cool. So that's a dark wash, dark gray wash. So Rasmus also says, if nothing else, get in the game and a beer or 12 with Marty. That would be fun. But I'll be in a training course until Friday. Mark says, let me know. I have some friends you can meet up with. Jen says, yeah, Mark, every time Jim comes home, he's got more goodies led for the mountain. Yeah, you guys got to stop doing that, man. You got to stop giving me stuff. Some of the stuff here wasn't given to me. It was sold, to be honest. But some other times it's just been straight out given to me. I'm like, oh, you can't turn it down because it's a gift. But at the same time, oh, what am I going to do with this stuff? Always appreciated, and if I legit can't use something, I will say so and politely decline. Which hasn't happened yet, because, you know, the people at the club are like paying attention and you know, giving me stuff that they know I can use. If anything, I just have too much now. Like, when am I ever going to need two 20mm, i.e. 1:76 UH-60 or MH-60 Blackhawks? I don't know, but I've got them now. That doesn't include the 15mm one that's crashed. That I can definitely use. All right, cool. So I put a little bit of wash on those jerry cans and hit it with a smidge more. It's a little bit of a darker color. Just go a little bit lighter with it. Only on the top so I can accent those tips, or those the little screw caps that go on top of the jerry can. There we go. And And while I am here, I totally forgot I have to put gray wash on my other engineering tools. Hopefully this is at least a little in focus. Looks like it. A little bit of sepia on this thing. And a little bit of sepia on this thing in the back. It's probably too much. All right, cool. That's going to pretty much handle the chassis. Give it a little bit of detail. I think it looks okay. That way the tank doesn't look like, again, just a spray paint of those 3 German mid-war colors. A few more small details. And we'll see where we stand. Meanwhile, I'll catch up some more on chat. Yes, I sold some, bought some 50 mil, and new buildings. Oh, and new building storage containers were on sale to store stuffing. Yeah, that for me is the hardest part. I've got plenty of cases. I won't disable my camera now, but I've got plenty of cases and shelvings to store the actual minis. For me, it's terrain and buildings that start to get hellacious when it comes to. Especially since I scratch build all my stuff, i.e. it's all cardboard and paper, or even wood, so I can't really store it in like an outside storage unit, or like an outside closet, because the climate here in Florida would just destroy it in no time at all. The muffler exhaust on the back of the tank. Okay, cool, Mark. So that's why I gave it a little bit of a rusty kind of a look there. My hobby is grading papers. Not nearly as much fun as painting. Beading is what I would be doing. Jen, you should get out some beading boxes. Lead Mountain is a good start. I have to put in. I have more to put in the DKH sale next week. Yeah, so next week we got a bit of a thing going on at Dust Creek House, our local. Whoa! Hit the table there. Local spot for South Florida Miniature Gaming Club. I believe I am bringing down a table of Force on Force. Still haven't made up my mind yet if I'm doing Vietnam or Fallujah, but either one should be fun. I've, clearly got the armies for them both. I don't know. And then I guess I'll see like what we're doing there as far as like who's running a game on Saturday, who's running a game on Sunday, or like who's running what. Make sure we have enough players. I was surprised we had as many players as we did on Saturday for 7 Days to the River Rhine. We recreated we kind of imagined one of the shootouts in Harold Coyle's Swordpoint novel. So Team Yankee, of course, is the novel that Harold Coyle was most famous for. Let me get a smaller brush for that. Headlight. Headlight is about the one time I ever use straight out white on a paint or on a model. I usually don't. And I don't usually put reversing lights on World War II tanks. So I don't know if they really had them. Or tail lights. I always put them on moderns because I know modern vehicles always have tail lights on them. Alright, there's not really anything else to paint on the turret. Oh, one small thing. Do I have any? No, I don't. Rasmus says, sounds good. Just too much up in the air right now. Oh yeah, with everything going on in your house, Rasmus, certainly. Looks like I'm jumping departments at work yet again. You can always look at it as expanding your resume, Rasmus. Yeah, when you're jumping around between different teams, different roles. That does fortify your resume to no small degree, and give you a little bit of extra armor when it comes to downsize time. There's been a couple times I've been in a company that's been going through downsizing, and somebody who's got multiple roles like that will instead be transferred when a given department is being disbanded or whatever because they can't afford it anymore. All right, so let's see if these 20mm guns are too small to drill out, or at least I'm not going to drill them out. If you drill out 100mm, 15mm, 2cm guns, more power to you. But that's pretty much where we are on painting this bad boy. A little bit of a dry brush, very little. Very little dry brush. Hey Jen, can you do me a favor? Oh, never mind, I got some. But not enough. Jen, can you do me a favor when you're not too busy? Only when you're not busy, I don't need them right now. Yeah, with some more paper towels, please. I did apply for it, so I am to blame, and it's a new team started up, so that should be interesting. Awesome. Time is going to be an issue this spring. Yeah, for the next 2 months, I'm going to do the best I can to keep up with the schedule. Sundays are no matter what. You guys know that I literally posted on Christmas Day, fell on a Sunday. So no matter what, you guys are going to get content every Sunday. If I got to set up a webcam and do a dance, you guys are going to get content every Sunday. Wednesdays are going to be touch and go for a while, only because, things at work, the real day job, are a little psychotic for the next couple months. Thanks, Jen. I appreciate it. Nothing crazy is going on. We've already had our layoffs, and I survived them, thank goodness. I haven't always survived the layoffs at work, but this time I did. That's not gonna work. Trying to find a good brush to use for my dry brushing. So nothing crazy is going on where I work. It's just that time of year. The way they have their quarters set up, the way they have like their big sales kickoff events or whatever, it's gonna be really weird for a little while. Make sure I don't have too much paint on my brush. And time to do just a little bit of dry brushing. I always overdo it with dry brushing, so don't do it this time. Now you guys get to watch as I overdo it with the dry brushing. Because I just told myself not to do it. So you guys probably know this, but I'll just say it so that the stream doesn't get boring. Never dry brush in white, or at least I don't. Dry brush in a lighter shade of whatever it is that you have your base color as. So right now this is, I'm dry brushing in a very, very light tan. I'm basically dry brushing in this. Since the primary color here is kind of a Dunkelgelb yellow. In fact, I should probably put some yellow in that. Because there's not much Dunkel in my Gelb. Actually, if I actually go by the actual German language, there's not much Gelb in my Dunkel. This is more of a khaki sand than a German yellow. So I might, now I'm kind of talking myself into it. I might go back and put a little bit of yellow in this just to give the overall tank. In fact, stop talking about it and just do it. I gotta find the stupid thing. I'm going to do the dry brush in this rather than that. It's a little darker, but as you can see, there's a little bit more yellow in that. That puts a little bit more yellow in my wash, or not my wash, in my dry brush. And if it works, I will change the overall tone of the model. And again, give it a little bit more of a Dunkelgelb. Because right now, it's not very Dunkelgelb. There's not much Gelb in my Dunkel. Oriskany 2023. All rights reserved. Basically, I want to put a little bit more yellow in the model. If you look at that mid-war German stuff, specifically 42 in Russia, there's quite a bit of yellow in it. This is more of a khaki. And then once the dry brush is done, we'll put some decals on it, and this little Kugelblitz will be done. Tell you what, I'm usually a guy, you guys know this, I'm usually a guy that paints armies for a given project, video series, web series, article series, whatever. So I'm usually painting like whole armies of, 10, 20, 30 vehicles at a shot. And I mean, it's fun, and you end up with a nice army. And because you painted it all at once, it's very, very easy to keep it all uniform. But I tell you what, it can get exhausting. And the idea of doing stuff like this, sitting down, just hanging out with friends and painting just one vehicle just for the fun of it. I mean, let's face it, Kugelblitz, how many times are you really going to use this? They made what, 10 of these? Did they ever actually see operational combat? You guys know I'm a very historical gamer. I don't just put it on the table. So I may almost never use this as a gaming piece. Because that'd be tough to find a battle where Kugelblitz actually saw action. But that's not the point. This is literally like hobby for hobby's sake. Which I know everybody who's known me a while isn't really my MO, but I'm usually much more, what battalion is that with? Are you sure that was with this brigade? Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, cool. Well, I didn't realize that they were in the first day of the battle. I knew they were in the second day of that battle. Oh, okay, cool, I learned something. Very rarely am I the guy that just says, dude, it looks cool, let's put it on the table. But once in a while, it's fun. All right, so dry brushing is now complete. Stowage is now complete. Pin washing is now complete. Wash on the stowage is now complete. This tank is just about finished. I'm not going to put any radio antenna on this. It's just time to, get into the focus there. It's just time to put on some decals. So now I get to find decals, because I spent all my prep time fighting with my sound card, and I didn't have too much of my stuff. So I've got a big bag of old decals that I saved. Old decals that I bought, and even some decals that honestly people just straight out sent to me, like as gifts. So I do have some red German numbers. They might be a little big for this vehicle, but it's not often, especially on a German vehicle, you get these nice wide turret panels. There's usually a pistol port in there, like on the Mark III and the Mark IV, or a spare track, or Zibert anti-tank paste. It's usually a pain in the ass to put those nice big German tactical numbers on the side of the turret. So I may go ahead and indulge myself. Again, this is a model that might not ever get on a historical table, so I might as well have fun with it. I know I've got some Balkan crosses in here somewhere. I just have to find them. Those are the wrong size. Those are the wrong era. Those are Balkan, or those are iron crosses from like Bundeswehr stuff. These might be a little too big. Kind of heroically proportioned. So bear with me, guys, while I just try to find the right transfers to put on here. Again, wrong era. Wrong size. Okay, here we go. This was the little thing I was looking for. Here we've got, okay, YouTube, let me go ahead and cover up the swastikas. Here we have all kinds of Balkan crosses of different sizes and scales. This is what I was looking for. Because these are great, they're just a little big for this poor little Kugelblitz. I've got some more white and yellow, more white and red tactical numbers that are a little bit probably more appropriately sized. In fact, I'll probably use these. These are legit too big. Put away all this other stuff so I don't make a mess. It's not in the way while I'm trying to stream. Catch up on Mr. Chat. Oh, we're talking about the bits box. Rasmus says, and those parts make pretty good wreck and casualty markers. We all know Jim loves his smoke counters. Dude, my smoke counters are popular, man. I take them to the Creek House, and they're like, what was his name? Tom was like, dude, those things are badass. Even as we were putting him on all his vehicles, because he was playing the Soviets up against American M1s. Those T-80s were going up like Chinese fireworks. But I'm not going to spoil it, because there's a couple videos coming out about that, but that game was close. It was a lot closer than you would think. I don't know if I'll get to the A-10 today on stream, because we started a little late, but it's already not quite 8:30 here. So we've been up for not quite an hour and a half. We started, what, like 15, 20 minutes late, Jen? So we've been up a little bit more than an hour. I guess is what I'm trying to say. All right, so we're letting, of course, those Balkan crosses get wet in the... you guys know how transfers work. Letting them soak in the water for a minute. That's annoying. So this transfer sheet can't be bothered to have, because you always need numbers in pairs for both sides of the tank. It can't be bothered with having like the number 27 on the transfer sheet twice. No, they got to give you another whole transfer sheet. So I have to like punch numbers out of two different transfer sheets. I mean, I get it, but it's kind of a pain in the ass. Never mind Historicon, are you going to make it to Recon in April in Kissimmee? That's a lot more doable, but is Recon like Historicon, or is it just a big sales event? Do they actually have tables there that people can participate in? That's pretty much all Historicon is. They do have a vendor hall, and you can buy stuff there, but it's not the main focus. If Recon is like that, I think I could convince Jen to go back up to the Orlando area. I'll drop her ass off at SeaWorld, and that'll be the last time I have to think about her for about 15 hours. No? You want to go to SeaWorld? Oh, she's listening to something. Never mind. She's not understanding what I'm saying because she's 30 seconds behind me because of the stream latency. Yeah, that would not be a problem. All right, Balkan cross number 1 out of the water. Try the brush out a little bit. Oh God, I gotta put transfers on camera. I must be crazy. All right, there's no way I'm fitting that. Oh, maybe. Can I do that on both sides? Oh, maybe not. I'm trying to see where I'm gonna put this. All right, got to hurry before the miniature dry, or before the decal dries. Damn, I picked one of the smallest crosses, and even that one might be a little too big. This other one's going to be really tough. I'm going to have to slide it in there behind that jack. Wish me luck. Here we go. Almost like I've done this before. Look at that. I wish I could put it in the same place up here, but there's something in the way. All right. So those two decals are on there. We cut out some numbers and get caught up on the chat. I might be uninformed. I never did hear about any battles by Saturn. What did I say? Did I say something about fighting near Saturn? This is a joke. I was clearly going over my head. There is a joke going over my head. I was talking about Sword Point before. Did I mispronounce it? Sword Point is Harold Coyle's novel in. It's the I don't know if it's the second or third novel. It's after Team Yankee, clearly, and he is. It is a U.S. versus Soviet throwdown in an alternate 1990. Back when he wrote it, it was a possible future, but it became like an alternate 1990. What it kind of shook out as is Desert Storm with Soviets. 1990, the U.S. has a huge desert force in Iran instead of Kuwait and Iraq, and they're fighting against the Russians. So if I remember the plot correctly, again, it's been a while since I've read the book. Again, this is written in the late 80s, so the Soviet Union is still in Afghanistan. Fundamentalist groups in Iran are increasingly upset about that. They're trying to supply Mujahideen rebels out of Tehran. The Russians take action against Iran. They start basically like a Ho Chi Minh Trail situation. They start bombing sites in Iran to stop the flow of arms to the Mujahideen rebels. The fundamentalist the fundamentalist guys in like the really crazy guys in Iran get a hold of a nuclear weapon, and nothing like a bomber or a missile, but they basically load it in the back of a truck and they set it off. I think it's in Kiev, which was part of the Soviet Union at the time. And now the Russians full-scale invade Iran, and the Americans are like, that's the Persian Gulf, we're not going to let you get away with it, and before you know it, basically it's the excuse to have a big, US, USSR, World War III kind of a scenario in Iran, instead of the usual 1980s Germany thing. So I think it's a superior novel to Team Yankee because obviously it's a little bit later in Harold Coyle's career. And did I just ruin that number? No! I hate this. Oh, I think I might have saved it. Damn, dude, these transfers are so small. Make sure my head's not getting in camera. Wow, this is going to be tough. Let me try and do this with a knife blade because it's not going to work with a paintbrush. Wow, that is a really small number. In fact, you can barely see that. Stop fighting me. I'm trying to slide it back onto a part of the model that happens to have a lighter color, so it's a little bit more visible. So at Dust Creek House, we set up a big airfield, like a big airport. Oh, and one of my Balkan crosses came off. I just saw it there on my finger. You gonna do that again? I'm handling it too much while it's still not really dry. Go back on there and stay on there. So once I'm done with these decals, I clearly put some matte varnish on there that kind of locks it down, seals it in place, so that this doesn't happen on the gaming table. Because another reason why I tend to avoid, whenever I can, putting decals right there on the side of the hull, not only is it not realistic or not accurate, they tended to put them there on the side of the superstructure like we see there. That's the more accurate place for German Balkan crosses. But the way people tend to handle miniatures on the table is they grab them by the side of the turret. And they're going to be putting their thumb right there on top of that exposed decal. It'll be okay because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slather it with some matte varnish that'll, again, lock it down and kind of keep it in place. Like right now, it still wants to move around. All right, let me get a different brush. Because I don't like doing it with knife blades, and that other brush was too round. For me, half the time, the hardest part is just getting the stupid decal onto the brush. I know you're supposed to kind of slide it off the paper directly onto the mini. Probably should have done that. In fact, is it too late? To do exactly that. It keeps binding up on me. Trying this a different way, because what I'm doing right now is not working. Come on, please. That didn't work. These numbers are really small. Finally. I mean, the placement isn't perfect, but at least I know I can slide it around a little bit. He says, as the model refuses to slide, or as the decal refuses to slide. I want to make sure it's in the same place on, or the same place of the turret on both sides, so the model looks symmetrical. All right, so now the placement is right. Now I'm just trying to make sure that it gets straight. All this for a decal you can barely see, but that's all right. It's on there now. It's not really in the right place. Let me try one more nudge. Because now I'm just being a perfectionist. Which is when I'm going to ruin the transfer, because that's just my luck. Alright. Let that dry, and then I'll put the... Ooh, sorry about that. I'll let that dry, and then I'll put the matte varnish on there. That'll be that. I'll give you time to catch up on Mr. Chat. Or paint or matte varnish. In just a second. Alright. Oh, get caught up on Mr. Chat here. Just 25% less rant. We still want some rant. Well, give me something to rant about. It just can't be the Merkava. It can't be All Quiet on the Western Front. It can't be the Bradley. You got to get something to... Blood and Valor is a World War I game. Yep. There's a con in Kissimmee. Hey, I might be a good place to get some footage for the channel. Yes, I'm saying Jen might come with me on that trip, because again, she doesn't really get into the con, but she does get into... Oh, there's other things to do in the Orlando area, clearly. Got the 10mm Through the Mud and Blood by Two Fat Lardies. Tag teaming, sometimes you gotta pay extra for that. Oh yeah, that's gonna be at least double. It's not too far. I can try to make it to Lancaster, PA. Yeah, it's, I mean, for me, it's getting to Philadelphia, which isn't too bad. But then it's like a 2-hour drive from Philadelphia. TKH will set the schedule next Monday. It looks like 4 to 6 games over 2 days. For the 2 days. All right, yeah. So that's the our little mini convention that we're having at the club. That's gonna be awesome. I will be running at least one of those games. I'm thinking about Force on Force. I'm going to keep bringing up modern games until modern gaming catches on. Because Mark does awesome World War II. We've got great Napoleonics people. We got twice a month. No, once a month. Second Saturday of each month is Ancients and Medievals with DBA. The Bellus Antiquitatis. Trying to get... I'll run World War II till the cows come home, but between all the World War games I run, World War II games I run, and the ones that Mark runs, we're going to drown that club with World War II. And I know some people have said that they're not interested in moderns. Other people have said that they are. So that's cool. I'm not really into Napoleonics either. Just never caught that bug. I don't get it. Well, that's not true. I do get it. It's just not for me. I like Black Powder. I'll just do American Revolution. I could totally set up Battle of Oriskany. You guys have seen last year my Battle of Trenton. Battle of Trenton is a tough game to run. As like a club game or a tournament game because it's so asymmetrical. I mean, who are you going to get to play the Hessians? If you know a little bit about that battle, if you do it right, that's not a battle. That's like a slaughter. Now you can make the game symmetrical in its victory conditions. All you have to do is enforce the historical outcome, i.e. the Americans are not allowed to lose a single unit. I think the most pessimistic view of American casualties, God, it's still moving. Look at that. I may wind up moving that, or just removing that Balkan cross on the side, and I'm totally out of focus. God, how long have I been out of focus? Yeah, so it turns into a battle where the Hessians have to be tabled, and even though most of them are not from Hessia, but anyway, where the Germans, the Crown Germans, have to be tabled, and the Americans have to, or the Patriots have to basically not lose a single figure. If you do it like that, the game becomes challenging for the American player. It's just still not a very fun game, especially for the Hessian player. So that might be like a co-op game. Like maybe I'll set up Trenton one of these days, and I'll play the Hessians, and then whoever wants to participate can play one of the units of the Americans. And spoiler alert, if you lose a single figure, anyone on the American side, you may have lost the game. It's a challenge for the American player. But then again, you get to walk up on the enemy while they're literally still in bed. Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and call this thing done. The matte varnish is still drying, so it doesn't quite look correct yet. But as soon as that matte varnish finishes drying, you see there it's still shiny when the light catches it the wrong way. The numbers are on there, the crosses are on there, all the dry brushing and stowage is done. I'm happy with the slight yellow dry brush. I think that actually worked really good. And yeah, the muzzles are painted on there. Yeah, this guy's pretty much good to go once that matte varnish dries. Alrighty. So, white, what is that? Ivory is often the closest I get. I could arrange for Jim to be there, a little more expensive since we'd be footing our own bill to get extra footage for the channel. Oh, Jen does want to be the cameraman. Okay, if you want to come to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, it's a lot of work, Jen. I'm not even playing. But, hey, that's cool. Kugelblitz, 5 prototypes, I think, and I think only one ever actually saw battle. I'm surprised it's one, to be honest. But again, this is definitely a fun kit. It looks great. I mean, not my painting. I mean, like the actual quality of the model. Came out great, so nothing to complain about. And again, it's fun to just paint a one-off vehicle, because it's one thing to paint engineering tools and axes and make sure you get the clamp right on the axes and the muffler tank and the extra stowage. When you're doing one, now do that 15 more times when you're making T-55s for 1991 Iraqis. That's when this becomes a job. So painting little one-offs like this, a lot of fun. Recon is mainly gaming, usually 20 tables in the main room, plus DBA and Flames of War. Oh, they bring Flaws of War up? I guess they're going to bring Flaws of War someplace. There you go, Mark. You got a little bit of a rant there. In smaller rooms, vendors are the main room, around the walls, maybe 10 vendor stops. Okay, that doesn't sound too bad. Recon sounds like the MIGT a couple times I've been there. Recon has a couple of hundred attendees, very relaxed, a huge range of games being played. Runs Thursday night through Sunday morning. Sweet. All right, so John's got to take off. Thanks very much, John, for coming by. Yeah, we're pretty much wrapped up here. What would be the piping on the Panzer Cruise for the Kugelblitz? That's a good question. The piping on the cruise, I mean, the cruise on here, but honestly, it would probably be Luftwaffe. Goering was really, really insane with establishing jurisdiction on different areas of the German war machine. So like all the flak batteries, at least the 88s and on up, were all technically German Air Force. And you would actually have to paint the crews in Air Force uniforms. They're not German Army, even though they're artillery crews. The little 2-centimeter guns that are like bolted directly into the regiments and battalions down inside the Schützen regiments, I don't know about those. But anything air related, including anti-aircraft units, was definitely Luftwaffe, and you would definitely be looking at Luftwaffe uniforms, colors, piping, things like that. Definitely any 88 crew, until you get to the PaK-43. Those are Army units. But the old FlaKPz, the L-56 version of the 88, those are totally Luftwaffe units. The Kugelblitz, I have no idea. It's actually a smaller caliber weapon, and it's an Army vehicle with the Army. Unless it was with Hermann Goering Division, it would probably be, what would that be, artillery? I don't know. That's actually a pretty good question. Like, sometimes people make the mistake of painting Stug crews black. Panzer black. I'm like, no, those were artillery guys. It was old Herman's last chance to have any influence on anything to get the Luftwaffe running it. Yeah, so if it got more than 30 feet off the ground, it was technically Luftwaffe. He controlled the paratroopers. The U.S. Army Air Force in World War II did not control the paratroopers. The U.S. Air Force today does not control the paratroopers. It's the U.S. Army, clearly. But everything air-wise at all went to the German Air Force. Up to and including things like, I think, the FW-200 Condors, the FlaKPz-200 Condors, that were trying to fight the Battle of Atlantic. Well, they're technically aircraft, so even though they're doing a Navy maritime mission, they're reporting to the Air Force, which means even the simplest little thing, you have to go to a completely different branch of the service to get a common chain of command. So, thing number 906 that the Germans did wrong in regards to their air power, or in regards to their command structure. All right, guys, we have now definitely been up for more than an hour and a half. I know it's almost 9, but we did get started late, so I'm keeping that into account. I'm not going to go ahead and keep going through the decals on the A-10, because that's going to be at least another hour. And decals are already giving me a tough time, and I don't want this to turn into a Oriskany throws models. Let's see if this A-10 really flies as I hurl it across the room at near relativistic speed. When the decals don't go on right, I've already had enough trouble with the paint job on that thing. I've come to find out I'm not very good at aircraft. I'm much more of a tank guy. Whenever I try to paint a vehicle or try to paint an aircraft, it comes out weird. Another thing I'm going to do with this A-10 off camera is put on some nail polish on the canopy. So if that's handy, of course it won't be handy. I'm live on camera. Why would anything be handy when I'm live on camera? Oh, it is. There we go. So this is what I use. Yes, you can pick it up at your local beauty supply store. That's what I use on canopies. You have to be very, very careful with it. This stuff does not forgive. It does not come off with anything short of an M9 flamethrower. So you gotta be really careful when putting this stuff on. You can't make a mistake, or else you're just gonna live with the mistake. All right, guys. So I think that's gonna wrap us up for tonight. Thanks for bearing with us when we were late. I was having trouble with my sound card. Again, getting the sound for the stream to actually play through OBS so you guys could hear it, both my voice and a little bit of background music. Other than that, yeah, the Kugelblitz is now pretty much done because, yeah, that varnish is drying. Those numbers are a little too faint. I may peel those off and replace it with those big ones. Because they're going to be absurdly too large, but at least you can see them. Here, I'll go back to the camera for a second. I mean, the crosses look great, and the numbers are on there nice and smooth now with no more glare because the matte varnish is finished. But, yeah, it's also that one didn't really go on there that smooth. I may just peel that off and put the larger number on there. But yeah, even here when I zoom in, you can barely see it. I mean, I'm streaming in 1080p. I mean, can you read that number? So I may go ahead off camera and try to get those off there. If I can get them off there safely without damaging the paint, I may replace them with those larger decal numbers we were looking at before. But I am happy with the crosses, happy with the rest of the paint job, and then I'll also get some work done on Mr. Thunderbolt II here. No, I don't call it the Warthog. I call it by its proper name, the Thunderbolt II. Oh, one small bit of update on the Thunderbolt II. Last stream, I was wailing and complaining and crying and gnashing my teeth that I had to make my own nose cone because I couldn't find the nose cone. I think I lost it. Turns out, after I fashioned a new piece, painted it, put it on there, I found the original. Because of course I did. The good news is it actually has the GAU-8A Avenger 7-barrel 30mm rotary gun on there. So it was worth the effort of ripping my nose cone off of there, which didn't have the rotary gun. I was going to have to build my own rotary gun. Ripping the old nose off and putting the new one on and again painting it to match. Because now I've got the gun on there without having to create my own gun. So I'm going to pretty much just put decals on this and a little bit of shine on the canopy. And then this bad boy is going to be done. The last thing I'm going to do with this one is rip off these wheels. So all these wheels, you're out of here. I'll get a razor and just neatly cut those off, paint over the spots that are left in the holes. And then what I really got to figure out how to do is build a flight stand. Because this is not going to be a model. This is going to be an actual 15mm gaming piece. And what I'm going for here is, you know, an aircraft that's flying over the battlefield delivering airstrikes on Iraqi tanks. All right, so there we go. Okay, guys, I've said goodbye like 3 times now. I'm taking off for real this time. This is Oriskany Jim with the Sitrep podcast. There are some updates and changes coming to the Sitrep podcast. Stay tuned for details. And yeah, it's going to be great. Good news in the future for the Sitrep podcast. But for now, this is Oriskany Jim. We are rounds complete. Tango Mike, as always, for listening and putting up with our technical issues earlier tonight. I wanted to get those sorted out before I turned the camera on, so at least you didn't have to watch the technical issues. At least we were just a little late. We're taking off, guys. Have a great week going forward. Stay tuned for some weekend content. We've got part 2 of our Gazala game, where we see if I can salvage that game against Mark in Battle Group. No spoilers, Mark, if you're still on the stream. But part 1 is already up. Check it out. It's pretty funny. Part 2 is underway, and it'll be up on Sunday, unless something goes wrong. But we'll definitely have something up for you guys on Sunday, no matter what. So take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend if I don't talk to you again. And we'll be in touch very soon. Take care, Rasmus. Take care, everybody. And hopefully see you guys on Sunday. So long.